What's up, guys? This is JusticeSoulTuna with another voice of JST. This time talking about Crysis 3, which is the game for Xbox PS3, as an Xbox 360, PS3, and PC, which came out in February, and I got it recently, and I completed it, like within the first day I got it. I was really excited to get it, obviously because I'm a huge fan of Crysis. I'm a huge fan of Crysis 2 in particular, like honestly one of my favorite games of all time. And I completed Crysis 3 not too long ago. That's why I'm making this podcast right now. And I don't want to like make too much of like an overall review of the game or anything like that. I think it's down to you to play the game to see how you like it. But it's got good reviews overall from like the critics and all that kind of thing. I mean, if you go by that, would I recommend this game? Definitely, 100% for so many reasons. It's genuinely one of the most impressive games you'll ever see and play. It's a technical feat, visually stunning, like the audio is amazing, you know, the combat is really excellent, and it can do some really surprising things at even the most unexpected times. And honestly, were it not for the fact that I've played obviously the other Crysis games and Crysis 2 in particular, Crysis 2 in particular, I'd have to say that this probably could be one of well, I mean, actually, Crysis 3 already is one of my favorite games anyway, just by sheer scale alone. But rather, I'd say Crysis 3 would be my favorite, my overall favorite, were it not for the fact that I've played Crysis 2. Because it's not that Crysis 3 is lacking in any way, no way. I mean, I'd say I rank it, for me personally, I'd rank it Crysis 2, Crysis 3, Crysis 1. In terms of favoritism, I'm not saying like in terms of what game's better or best. In terms of how I like them personally. Yeah, I mean, I think I still prefer is the wrong word. And I think this is where I get to talk about it. I mean, I still rank Crysis 2 as my overall favorite, and Crysis 3 at a really close second. But even then, saying that, it's like, the Crysis trilogy are just some really great games. The fact of the matter is, like, they're so well designed that it's even hard to compare them. Primarily because each game, despite the similarities, the very, very obviously big similarities, it is just a sequel series. There's a lot of differences between, obviously there's a huge difference between Crysis 1 and Crysis 2. And you'd think that, Crysis 3 is not that big a stretch from Crysis 2, when it actually is. I mean, some say it's a hybrid mix between Crysis 1 and Crysis 2, as in the open environments of Crysis 1, and the more sort of directed, controlled combat of Crysis 2. It's an interesting mix, which it does that, but it doesn't feel like Crysis 1 or 2. When I was playing Crysis 3, obviously I thought, yeah, this is similar. I'm playing Crysis and, nano suit weapons, all that kind of thing. But there are many moments in the game when I didn't feel like I was just playing like a repeat of the first game or a repeat of the second game. I felt like I was playing a unique experience, unique to Crysis 3 itself. And to be honest, that was great. Like, I didn't feel like, I was having to walk around and, for ages in big open spaces, getting nowhere until finally enemies appear, like happened in Crysis 1. Nor did I feel like I had to explore too long. I felt like it took the objective markers and the very steady pace of Crysis 2 and mix that with the open areas of Crysis 1, so you can easily find out where to go pretty quickly, and you can easily, find weapons, I guess like intel items, ammo and stuff like that, to use, and it was really fun. It was really enjoyable. And the thing I think I want to address overall is that a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, in fact not that many people at all. I mean, Crysis 3 is done pretty well, like sales-wise, community-wise, in terms of reviews as well. Although some would say that Crysis 3, while feeling unique, it kind of lost some of what made the first game or the second game good, even though it tried to emulate that. And I would agree, but I think that's really the point, though. I mean, I personally, and this usually happens by the third game in a series, I felt like I was so excited to play Crysis 3, not just because I was excited to play another Crysis game, but in the back of my mind, even though I don't explicitly admit it, even though I don't admit it on the surface, I'm excited to play the games because deep down, and a lot of gamers may not realize this, I wanted to have more of what Crysis 2 had, more of what made Crysis 2 exciting, but I don't particularly think that's fair, because obviously it can keep the core mechanics and keep what, you know, makes Crysis, but it can't do the exact same things, like the exact same presentation, the exact same set pieces and situations that happen in Crysis 2. Otherwise, it would just be Crysis 2 again. It can take maybe some of, like, the jokes that were made, or it might repeat a certain thing, like for the sake of either an Easter egg or paying homage to a situation in Crysis 2. So when you see, you know, I love to see like certain features of previous games repeated in some way, or something happening that's repeated. I mean, one thing that made Crysis 2 really exciting was how every single situation and encounter was engaging and interesting. Like, each moment was a revelation. Each, you know, circumstance you put in was just very, you know, engaging in its own way, making almost every experience completely, like, you know, worth it. And Crysis 3 is like that, but not in the same way at all. I mean, and it's the inclusion of the newer weapons, the ability to use Ceph weapons, the fact that you have the hunter bow, and even the changes to the way the suit works, stuff like that. It makes it feel like it's not the exact same thing. Also, there's hacking as well. So, in a way, if you try to judge Crysis 3 purely based upon how it is in relation to the first game or the second game, chances are you'll find it lacking, because it doesn't do a lot of the things the first game does, presentation-wise, and it doesn't do a lot of the things the second game does, gameplay-wise. And you can call that a bad thing, but I don't think so, because, to be honest, Crysis 3 does a lot of things right. Huge open environments, which on any of the consoles look absolutely amazing. On PC it looks the best, but even on Xbox it looks fantastic. Like, huge open environments that look amazing and were really, really immersive. You know, awesome weapons, you know, all with different camos and stuff like that, you know, cell camos, like the standard weapons as well as the Ceph weapons, which all look really, really cool and handle really well. The story, which was surprisingly personal, like very, I didn't see it coming. I mean, the first game was more of discovering, like, kind of a hidden secret. The second game was more like saving the city, and it was kind of on the level of like military heroism kind of thing. This one is more like sort of world-ending, kind of serious, but also addresses more sort of the personal level to do with Prophet as a human being, like, you know, becoming more than that because of the nanosuit and stuff like that, as well as Psycho, and I'd say Psycho is a huge character in this one. Psycho's from the first Crysis game. He was on your team, and he becomes a huge part of Crysis 3. So stuff like that actually makes Crysis 3 stand out. I mean, that obviously on top of the hacking, which actually works pretty well. It's pretty fun. Being able to hack like turrets and stuff like that, you know, disabling mines and stuff like that. That's all pretty cool. The way you can approach many different areas from different directions and different objectives and stuff like that, it's actually pretty fun. It didn't feel like, you know, one way is the right way and the other ways aren't as fun. It just felt like whichever way you do is up to you. And what's great is if you take one route, you can easily double back and check the other to see if there's anything you missed. And usually there's something like, you know, an upgrade module, that kind of thing, that can help you out, or a new weapon you might not have picked up. So the game is incredibly liberal. It really did a great job of taking what made the first and second game good and providing its own experience. I mean, if anything I'll give to Crysis 3, and this is what I want to get across, it's that it felt unique. Some people might not, especially when it comes to the third game in a trilogy, they might not see the forest for the trees, so to speak. They might not look at the game in its own right and see that the game has managed to stand up as its own experience, continuing the previous games, taking elements from the previous games, but also feeling unique enough that the third game is worth playing on its own, not just because it's a continuation and not just, you know, it's not just a clone of the first two games. And I think that's something great. Like with a lot of the third games in a series that I really admire and love, like Modern Warfare 3 or Gears of War 3, I would gladly play those games for those games, just as I would play COD COD 4 for COD 4, just like I play Modern Warfare 2 for Modern Warfare 2, I would play Modern Warfare 3 for Modern Warfare 3. Like, that to me is an exciting idea. I think sometimes it's when a sequel is either too samey or doesn't do enough to make the first game, make the first game, individual enough that playing the second game is worth it for its own reasons. Some sequels fail to do that, whereas in the case of Crysis, it's genuinely managed to do that. It's genuinely managed to make a game that feels, like plays, but doesn't feel like Crysis 2, nor does it feel like Crysis 1. And I think that's great. And my hope is that people, I don't know, I'm not going to presume what the general opinion of Crysis 3 is, but I just hope people take a game like Crysis 3, which is marvelously designed, a really beautiful looking game, and honestly has one of the most impressive final levels in any game ever, especially the final ending sequence, which just from the sheer look of it, I wish I had a bigger TV and a PC, because if I'd seen that, probably my head would have exploded. One of the most impressive things I've ever seen done in a video game, like genuinely. I've seen stuff like that before, or along similar lines, but the way it was done in Crysis 3 was just truly, like, wow! It really blew my mind. I wouldn't want to ruin it at all. You'd have to see it to believe it. Even a YouTube video on 1080p will not do it justice. You have to see it yourself on your own TV playing the game, or your PC. It's something truly marvelous, like, genuinely. So, Crysis 3 is a phenomenal game. That's the first thing. And even if I may personally feel that I might not like it to the standard that I like Crysis 2, it might not have been as magical and as instantly unforgettable. I think Crysis 3 is an unforgettable game anyway, but that's the point I'm trying to get to. It may not have been to me an instantly unforgettable and magical journey like Crysis 2 was, but that's only because of the amount of games I've played, and even what I've seen in Crysis 2. Like, some of the things Crysis 3 did might have been lost on me, but not in a bad way, not in the sense that I didn't receive it, because I did. I experienced every single part of the game, I enjoyed every single part of it, but rather some bits might not have had the same impact on me as they probably should have. But this is what I firmly believe. I firmly believe that as a gamer, even if a certain effect is not met for one part of the target audience, it doesn't mean it's not possible for the rest. Too many people are so quick to assume that when they don't feel a certain emotion, that they don't get a certain part of experience from a game, then nobody else does. I don't believe that at all. Whereas I myself might not have had that same spark. I had a different spark, of course, but not that same spark that I got from Crysis 2, or that same feeling of awe and wonder in certain parts. Somebody else might genuinely have that. Someone might have an even bigger feeling of, awe-inspired inspiration, I guess. Yeah, just awe-inspired excitement. They might have a feeling of wonder and revelation the same way I had with Crysis 2. And I'd say that if Crysis 3 is the first Crysis game you've ever played, like if you haven't played the first or second game, I think Crysis 2 is gonna just blow you away. Crysis 3, sorry, is gonna blow you away. It's gonna, honestly, it will marvel you, like, what technology can do. It'll honestly make you feel like it's one of the best looking games of all time. It is. It really is. So, if you hadn't played the first two games, I think the third one will really hit that spot. If you've played the first two games, then the spot won't be hit. I suppose you would get hit by a different spot, which won't be the same, but it will still be enjoyable. I mean, this metaphor's got a little bit weird somewhere, but hey, you get the idea. But I definitely believe that it's important to see the big picture in that sense, that an experience in a game is something to marvel at, but even if you may not feel it yourself, you can at least understand that other people will. It's just like how I say with, if there's a game that I don't like or a game that I don't enjoy, I may not like it, I may not prefer it, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that nobody else will. I believe that if people can enjoy a game and love it and really be immersed in its world, then that's great. If I don't like it, that's fine, but I can understand and respect that other people do, and other people are into this game. Like, there's so many games that I'm not a fan of, I wouldn't play, like I don't like the genre, or just I downright hate, but I can definitely respect and understand how much fun people have with those games and how much they love those games, just as I love, games that other people don't like. Fact of the matter is, like, opinion doesn't get in the way of a great experience. So even if you may not have had, a great experience from a game that would be as amazing as, say, Crysis 3, doesn't mean doesn't mean other people wouldn't be. Other people probably would be, absolutely blown away by the game. I was blown away, definitely, but I'd say that, for all the parts that I probably wasn't as blown away as I could have been, somebody else might have been, way more excited by it than I was. And I think that's the thing to say. I mean, what I'm trying to say overall, and in summary, I suppose, is that, Crysis 3 to me was a beautiful experience. It really was. And I was thinking about how, even though I hate to admit it, it feels like it's not even though it's a phenomenal game and it beats Crysis 2 on so many fronts, I don't personally feel like it's a more wholesome experience than Crysis 2, but that's only because of my bias. And what I want to do is I want to, detach myself from this game, detach my bias from this game, and basically say that no, I wouldn't recommend this game on my personal bias of, yeah, it's good, but it's not as good as Crysis 2. I want to recommend this game as a truly beautiful game in its own right, as a sequel to Crysis 2, but also as a game on its own, as one of the most stunning games, most exciting to play, a tense, stealth action experience, and an amazing, visual feast for the eyes, basically. So definitely recommend Crysis 3. It's a phenomenal game, and I think that with a lot of games like these, especially in trilogies, it's best to look at the game for what it is, not for what it isn't, and to try and recommend it on that basis, that it's not about the one experience one person has. It's about the experience that anybody can get from it. Because a game like this has done so many good things, and it's just pretty much waiting to be appreciated. So I think that's what I think. But yeah, so I haven't tried out multiplayer yet, even though I tried out the beta. I probably will try out multiplayer later. And I'm actually looking forward to doing multiple run-throughs to get the rest of the nano upgrade modules and just see other ways of playing the different parts. Because that's the fun thing about games like Crysis. They're very open-ended, very flexible. You can easily just you can play again and not have the same experience again. Not like in a synthetic way. Some games say like, oh, you play and you don't have the same experience again. To be fair, most of the time in most games, unless you do the exact same thing with the exact same buttons, chances are when you play through a game, you don't play in the exact same way that you did before. And in a game that's as open and as open and as accessible as Crysis, then yeah, the weapon combinations and ways you use your nanosuit basically make every game run through definitely different to the last. So I definitely do recommend Crysis 3. It's a phenomenal game, and I hope people see its forest for its trees, if you know what I mean. So yeah, this is JusticeSoulTuna. See you guys later.